Sea of Red, it's time for another Fireside Chat, the official podcast of Flames fans. It's go time.
We're 3 games into the regular season, 79 to go, and the Flames have not had the best start so far. I'm Dan, breaking it down alongside Matt. Matt, not the opening week. I think the opening week that you predicted, sort of, better than you predicted, but not what we were hoping for.
Yeah, not exactly the best start for the Flames, but also not to be, it's not unexpected.
Let's jump in and talk about these games that the Flames have played this week. Three games down so far. The Flames opened their season on the 8th in Edmonton, taking on the Oilers. This was, I think, a very exciting game for the Flames. They got down early. They were down 3-0 after goals from Nugent Hopkins, Andrew Mangiapane, and Leon Draisaitl. The Flames managed to come back. Matvei Gridin scored his first NHL goal. Connor Zary got one, and Blake Coleman got one to take it to the shootout. And then ended up getting shootout goals from Morgan Frost and the winner from Nazem Kadri. This was, I thought, a great fight back for the Flames, and of course the extra sweet victory being the Battle of Alberta. What were your thoughts?
I thought it was a tale of two games. Like, the first half, when Edmonton they were basically walking all over the Flames, controlling the play, and, like, there wasn't really any pushback by Calgary. And then, like, once the Oilers got up to that comfortable 3-0 lead, really, they just stopped playing, and the Flames scored 2 quick goals, and then were gifted one by Skinner and Bouchard in the third. And if it wasn't for that, like, I feel like them taking their foot off the gas, I feel like the Oilers should have probably walked away with a 5 or 6-0 win. But they just stopped playing after getting up, and it ended up costing them.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to say it. The Oilers did take their foot off the gas for sure, and anybody can win on any night in this league, as we've talked about. But I thought, from what we saw from the Flames pushback, and I think this will be a story all week, is when the Flames were pushing, they're showing that they can be a half-decent team. Yeah,
the effort was always there. In all 3 games, it's just the lack of conversion in the subsequent 2 games. But if you give this team an inch, they will take it.
And that's exactly what happened in the second game, I'd say. The Flames, in a back-to-back, kind of weird to start the season with a back-to-back, going over to Vancouver. The Canucks scored 4 goals in the third period to defeat the Flames 5-1, and the only Flames goal coming from Morgan Frost here. Again, I thought that the Flames looked okay playing this game. I thought that they won the faceoffs overall. They had more hits than Vancouver. I thought they played an okay game. They just didn't have the conversion.
Yeah, and you saw that when the Flames did actually have solid scoring chances, the goalie for the Canucks, that Demko was able to turn away any of the high danger chances, which, to be honest, Stuart Skinner did not. And that was the difference. The Canucks got timely saves, the Oilers did not. And if it wasn't for that, frankly, the score might have been of a similar type as the Oilers game. But things just kind of got away from the Flames in the third period.
Yeah, and the Flames, I think, did start to show that they were on a back-to-back in the third period. They started to run out of gas a little bit.
I agree.
And it was one of those things, I think, where it was, if they would have been able to convert early, they probably would have been okay, but they started to run out of gas, and that's really what let Vancouver take over that one late. Then the Flames took a couple days off, came back to Calgary, trying to rebound against the Blues in their home opener, and were unable to do so. The Flames got beat 4-2 by the Blues. You and I were in the building for this one. We saw Matt Coronado score both goals for the Flames. I thought the Flames actually played pretty good in this game. Like, everything they needed to do, they were doing. They were getting some good shots on net. They were doing a lot of the right things here. And I think that, I think that they were doing great in this game and playing really well. And St. Louis was playing okay, but this was just one of those things, like you've been saying, where the Flames ended up, I think, not making the most of their chances, and that's why they got beat.
Yeah, and to the Blues' credit, Joel Hofer made 5 or 6 dynamite saves in the second period. If any of those had got in, the Flames probably win this game, but the Blues were just kept hanging around. After it was 1-0, they scored 2 relatively quick goals on the Flames as the Flames were getting a little bit passive in the defensive zone. Coronado tied it up, and then in the third period, St. Louis came to play for a little while, scored twice, and basically locked the game down from that point on.
Yeah, I think those 2 goals that were quick from St. Louis did take the Flames out of this one for a little bit. It kind of felt like after the Neighbors and Thomas goal, the Flames were reeling a little bit, but I still like their effort overall in this one.
Yeah, it was a grade A effort by the team. Like, the effort level throughout, they just got out-talented by the other team.
And you and I were at this game. We were talking mostly not about the game, but the really odd thing that happened here. They did, as always at the home opener, introduce all the players, the coaches, the training staff. Everyone got introduced except for number 10, Jonathan Huberdeau. And it's kind of a weird guy to exclude. And yes, maybe he might not have been in the building because he has a concussion, but I was kind of surprised we didn't at least hear Beasley say something like, and not in the building, number 10, Jonathan Huberdeau. It seems odd to have entirely excluded him from introductions.
Yeah, and like, if I recall correctly, from years gone by, that like, even if somebody's, say, out for a protracted period of time, they usually just mention also not dressed, number 10, blah blah blah, and just in passing, like, they don't even like shift the camera angle or anything. They just also say, yes, this player exists. And the fact that they didn't just raised a little bit of eyebrows of why not? Like, how, it begins to question, like, how serious is this injury, because of the fact that, like, he was not mentioned at all and hasn't really been seen since the injury took place.
Yeah, exactly. And when I heard that, I thought to myself, is he out for the season? Like, is his career over? Like, I wasn't quite sure why they didn't, and if it's foreshadowing something. But it was a little... I always think the Flames do a pretty good job of honoring players and stuff like that in these things. So to have him excluded, I don't think it was, accidental. I don't think it was foresight. They make sure they know what they're doing with this kind of stuff, and it was just kind of odd to not hear his name called.
Yeah. And, we both wish him all the best in his recovery from whatever the problem is, and hopefully he's back in the lineup soon.
Or not, and if not, I don't know. I guess it's kind of weird we haven't heard anything there.
Yeah.
I'm just checking here. It looks like he's still listed as IR. I guess he's probably week to week. Like, it doesn't really say here on the official list, but yeah, he's not listed as out for season or anything. So no. Hopefully we'll see him back. So after the 3 games this week, the Calgary Flames now have played 3 games, have 1 win, 2 losses for a total of 2 points. They are now tied for the Western Conference wildcard with 8 other teams. The Flames sit 9th in the Western Conference wildcard race. Minnesota and Vancouver are officially in at 2 points, but it's 3 games in, not a lot we can put into that, but the Flames have 2 points after possible 6 this week. Matt, looking at the week, taking out the scores, what's your overall thought? Do you think the Flames are looking about the way you expect them to? Do you think this team is looking a little sluggish coming into this week? What's your overall thought?
Well, the Flames really did not and do not have enough talent in the lineup. Wolf, to his credit, has been very excellent. but there is only so much that one player at one position can do. And, the forward group, I feel that, everybody has played fine. The only guys that have been consistently decent have been Matvei Gridin and Matthew Coronado. Everybody else has just been fine, and the Flames' talent pool just is not deep enough where, fine performances can yield wins and with any consistency. And if it wasn't for the Oilers taking their foot off the gas in the opener, the Flames would probably be 0-3 right now. And, that is about how well they've played. And, it's one of those where, unless things change where, guys like, say, Sharangovich and Farabee, etc., start translating their efforts to actual goals on the ice, this team is going to find themselves quickly in the basement of the standings.
We're early in the season, so I don't want to put too much into it, but I think that they've put in a fairly good effort so far. I mean, there's not been a game when it looked like the Flames didn't want to be there or didn't show up or just quit halfway, which we've seen a lot from them in the past. I like the players they've got and seen some of those young players like Honzek, Gridin in the lineup. Parekh played in the home opener. That's probably one we should have talked about. We'll come back to him. But I still think that it feels like the Flames are still trying to find some chemistry with some of these guys and find the right lines here. And there's nobody that's looked really bad to me yet, in my opinion, on either the forwards or the defensive side. But I think that we need a little bit of time to see what this roster can still become. I think for week one, is it ideal? No, but I'm not upset with where they are right now. It's a long season.
Oh, for sure. And, the one thing that I've been pleased about is the younger players, save Connor Zary, have looked relatively good in their performances thus far. And I think that all of them have played well enough to stick thus far.
Well, let's talk about some of those young guys. So, obviously, the number one guy on people's mind right now is Matvei Gridin. He was the 2024 first-round pick and number 28 overall, made the team out of camp. I think there's an argument to be made that he's probably been the most complete player for the Flames. I've been really surprised watching him. He seems like he has great hockey IQ. He seems to understand the game, especially the pro game, really well, especially for a 19-year-old player who's had no AHL time and really a little bit of Canadian junior time, but only really 1 year of Canadian junior time. Often we see these guys taking some more time to adjust to the North American game and things like that. Gridin to me, looks like he's the best all-around guy out there, and I'm really surprised by what we're seeing.
Yeah, I even said, too, during the St. Louis game that I'm starting to see potential star material out of Gridin, and it's one of those, he doesn't have any specific thing where, he's a 10 out of 10 player, but, everything is, right, a notch and a half below that, and his hockey IQ, though, is through the roof. And he just makes nothing but good passes, good shots, very creative plays, and, he's quick enough where he gets in on people as well. And, I mentioned that, a guy like that, David Pastrnak with Boston, was a similarly first round pick, like Gridin. And, every once in a while, those guys turn out to be true impact players. And Gridin, thus far, is looking like he's going to be of a caliber where, you might be relying on him as being a first-line player down the road.
I don't want to say that he's in the same category as Gavin McKenna, because he's not. But I think one thing that we have to look at here is, fans keep saying we need a tank to get a star player. We need a tank to get a star player. Well, this is a guy the Flames drafted 28th overall in the first round of 2024. Like, there is talent to be had even later in that round. And I think this is you got to give the Flames, obviously it's still very early in this and we'll see, what happens with his career. But so far, you've really got to give the Flames credit for finding this player and being able to bring him in at 28.
Yeah, and like we've seen throughout the Flames history that they are able to get guys later, like even, harkening back, like Joe Nieuwendyk was a second round pick. Fleury was a like 9th round selection. Gaudreau was a 4th rounder. TJ Brody was a 4th rounder. Like, you can get in true impact players for your team deeper in the draft. So, and frankly, like if you're trying to build a contending team, you need to hit on people like that regularly. Like even the Anaheim Ducks, like the one year they got Getzlaf and Perry in the first round at like 17 and 28 as well. And like those two are like the cornerstones of their franchise for like 15 years. And if the Flames can start to translate some of these picks that they got in previous years' trades into impact players, and, like this past year getting Reshny and Potter, if they can, those guys can turn out as well, like you can start to build your lineup fairly quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, and even if they're not going to be your number one guy, you can get some pretty key parts of that lineup from these young players. So I'm really liking what we see from Gridin so far. I think he's a guy that is going to be on this team. I think they're going to have to find a place to keep him on this team for as long as he's looking good. Mm-hmm. What about Sam Honzek, number 29?
I think he's adjusting well to the NHL. He's had a couple of good scoring chances in the 3 games. I think that he's going to be more of a good middle 6 depth guy once he properly fills out. But last year, like one of the knocks on him was that he'd get knocked off the puck easily due to his thin frame. Him adding the weight that he has, like he is playing more solidly in terms of that. He's still very much a young player, and it's still going to take probably 2 or 3 years for him to fully establish himself. But I would not be surprised, like once Pospisil and Huberdeau, once they're back, for Honzek to be sent down. But
yeah, he's not waiver eligible, so he makes the most sense.
But he if he needed to stay all year, he would definitely be okay in the NHL. Like, I wouldn't be expecting huge things from him in terms of numbers this year, but, he does look like an NHL player.
He does, and I still think that the best thing for him is to send him to the American League and let him tear it up down there instead of being a middle 6 guy for the Flames.
I agree. Give him the Coronado treatment.
Yeah, and I think Coronado's a great example of where that can work. I like that they've got Honzek out there with Backlund and Coleman more often than not, because I think working with veterans like that is where he needs to be right now. Gridden's obviously on the first line right now with Kadri, Coronado.
Yeah, well, and especially with Honzek, his manner of play and his intelligence on the ice, I see him being a good two-way player. So learning from the Flames' 2 best two-way players will do him nothing but good like a year, 2, 3 years from now.
Yeah, I totally agree. Those are the guys you want to be with. And probably not just showing you two-way play, but also, and we've talked a lot about this, how do you play this game? What's the mental side? How do you get ready for the game? Like, are they just being with NHL players is going to help him quite a bit. And the last guy, the Flame that's only played 1 game so far this regular season, and actually got quite a bit of cheers when he was announced at the home opener, and that's Zayne Parekh, wearing number 19 on the back end. 19 now. I thought, is he still 89? No, he's 19. He was out there for the home opener with Pakal for quite a bit of time. We did see him shift around. I think he was with Anderson for a little bit. What was your thought on Parekh in that first game?
He looks like he needs to add another 10 to 15 pounds, much like Honzek did. He got pushed off the puck a few times, which is fine. But, in order to be successful at the defensive side of the game, he needs to add some weight next offseason. Offensively, the instincts are there. He made a number of good stick work plays in the offensive zone. None of them really amounted to a ton of offensive chances, but, it's one of those where once he gets more comfortable with the timing, etc., those will start to turn into chances on net and goals and assists. It's just, first game of the season.
Yeah, and I give him credit too. If you listen to Zayne Parekh and some of the media before and after the home opener, he owned the fact that he didn't have the best preseason. He owned the fact that he probably deserved to be scratched for those first couple games, and that takes some maturity to do that. I think that there's still a lot of excitement around him, and I don't like some of the vitriol from fans about, questioning the coach for sitting him out for the first couple games. I don't think what we saw in the home opener, unlike Gridin, I don't think Parekh was a difference maker enough where you have to start putting him into games. But I think this is going to be a slow progression for him to get to where he needs to be in the NHL.
Yeah, and realistically, defensemen usually take 2, 3, 4 years to find their game at the NHL level. And, it's very rare that you get a Cale Makar where you just drop them in and, oh, I'm an all-star. Those don't happen. And you have to be patient. And the Flames have a good coaching staff. And, the areas that Parekh is deficient in, that is one of the Flames' strengths as a coaching staff, is that they're good at teaching those things and bringing them along correctly. And, having Parekh in the press box isn't a bad thing because you can actually say, hey, look for these specific things that you're deficient in and how other players, both on your team and the opposition team, what they do to counteract those plays so that way you can improve your own game.
Yeah, and I think knowing that he also needs to, he's a great offensive defenseman. That's what he needs to do because he does that well, but he needs to be focusing on getting to be a better defensive defenseman if you really expect him to, I think, be the elite defenseman he can be or the Flames want him to be. And there's going to be some challenges as that happens, and I think there's going to be challenges watching him struggle with that and try things and, maybe try to be a little bit more defensive. And as we've said, this team may not be the best this year. I think in some ways him learning on this roster when mistakes are okay and on this team where mistakes are probably okay is better than, hey, we're running for the cup and we can't afford mistakes.
No, exactly. And
this is a good year for him to do that. And I thought he was fine in the home opener, but I wouldn't say that he stood out. It's not like, wow, his first game of the season and he just looked, like you said, the next Cale Makar, or the next, Rasmus Anderson, or guys like that. This is going to take some time. And I think fans have to be okay with him sitting out sometimes and watching and, earning his way into the lineup and not just be given it because he's, a top draft pick.
Yeah, and being able to be patient and let him be the third pairing guy with Paul and let him, he will take those steps up the lineup. You can't, let talent like that, stagnate there. It will eventually get, he will be a second and then eventually a first pairing defenseman. It's just allowing him to grow organically instead of trying to just force it in. And,
yeah.
And realistically, the Flames are also trying to be competitive this year. And, having somebody who's a little on the weaker side playing first pair minutes or second pair minutes when they're not ready for that would severely impact negatively both his development and the team's overall success. And you don't want to derail a guy's career and confidence by rushing him with too many responsibilities too soon. Let him grow into it.
Exactly, yeah, and we need to just allow that. We need to give him some time to work through this and work his way to the NHL. And again, I mean, you and I have said, and I still believe, the best spot for him, if we could put him there, is the American League this year. So while fans want to see him come up and do amazing things right away, this is a process, and we need to just let him go through that process and let him learn. And you might not see him as much as you want to, but give it some time, and you'll get the Zayne Parekh you want.
Yep. And realistically, with where the Flames are at, being able to be patient and just let the chips fall where they may, is the best strategy for this team, both for now and the future.
Yeah. And, when we talked about this week and what we saw from the Flames this week, not a lot of wins, a lot of, I would say, hard work, but I think the biggest thing, and you and I talked about this coming into the season, we knew this defense group was going to be lacking, and there's not many goals this week I can pin on Dustin Wolf. I think the defense team, as you and I have pointed out, was really evident that they're probably not where they would need to be competitive already in the first 3 games.
Oh, for sure. And
a lot of these goals were because the defense made blunders.
Yeah, if you look at the first 2 goals, even by St. Louis, the Neighbors goal and the Thomas goal, if the defender had helped out at all on either count, instead of letting those 2 players have all the time and space they need, the Neighbors goal was not a great goal by Wolf. But you can't let somebody that's that good literally have the opportunity to deke out and get that close to the goaltender, while the defender's just standing there basically being a pylon. And, it's one of those where, it wouldn't matter who you are, you're going to be giving up goals with this kind of defense that he's been getting.
And I think that's a really good thing to point out, too, is, yes, I guess Dustin Wolf is an amazing goaltender, but in the modern NHL, you're probably not going to see another Kiprusoff where he'll just take this team on his back and, run all the way with them. He's going to need good defensive efforts to make him look the way that he can.
Well, and to draw a parallel,
it's going to be tough for him if this defense still looks like this.
Yeah, and to draw parallels to a different sport, the Jays played yesterday, and Kevin Gossman played really good, but and the whole pitching staff did really good. Only gave up 3 runs, and other than a first pitch home run, the Jays only managed to get 1 hit, and so what should have been good enough by the pitching staff to get the win, they got no help from the other side of the coin and walked away with a loss. And, the Flames' 3 games were very much like that, where Wolf was the best player on the ice for the Flames. But, he can't score goals too. So if you're not getting any help, you're going to get 2 out of 3 losses. And it's a team effort.
And you're not going to get a guy like, Parekh or Uyghur or even Ball to come out and be able to solve that problem by themselves. You need all 6 of them to do that. And I think that's the thing to remember, is that this defense is a little weak. I mean, they've got some good pieces on it, but it's not 6 strong. And that's going to be one of the big struggles for the Flames this season, is seeing if they can overcome that.
Yeah, as a group, they're probably 20th to 25th in terms of overall talent, and for the Blue Liners, and it's going to be a challenge.
Last question I wanted to ask you before we look at the season coming up is, it was officially announced this week, last week, that Mark Giordano, former Flames captain, has retired from the NHL. He hasn't been around for, a year now, I think he's been out of the league. But he's officially hung him up. Do you think that Mark Giordano should be honored in, I guess, a Forever Flame or something like that in the new building? Should we retire number 5 or do nothing for the former captain? What do you think?
Honestly, I'm in the camp of do nothing. he was a very good player for a long time, but like if you're looking like to similar players like Gary Suter or Robin Regeer, neither one of their numbers are up or honored in any way, and it's not like the Flames had a great deal of success as a team while he was here. So, like, would he be on my top 6 Flames defensemen all time? Probably. But he didn't have enough of an impact. Like, yes, he did win the Norris Trophy that one year, but that's not really enough in my book.
I wouldn't retire number 5. At one point I thought maybe you retire it, and if he retired a Flame, I think it might have been a different conversation if he would have stayed here for a couple more years. I do think, though, in the new building, the Flames need some way to honor these players, whether that's forever a Flame or something like that. I think he deserves recognition for what he did both on and off the ice in this city. I think he deserves recognition for being the captain that took over after Jerome, but I don't think it needs to be number 5 in the rafters. But I think the Forever Flame or Ring of Fire or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, like realistically, they should have like some sort of interactive thing, like video thing in the new building where they get to highlight, guys from the past that had a big impact and that you can show throughout, and switch it up and, have different eras being shown of, hey, these are the players from our history, get to see what they were like on the ice. Like, like say like a guy like Kent Nilsson, for example, all-time point leader for a single season by the Flames. And like nobody would know like what type of player he was. So, unless you're, my parents' age and we're Flames fans. So, it's one of those where, like being able to connect the history, I think, and having a guy like Giordano being featured in that would be a good thing. It's just needing the space to be able to do that.
Well, and if it's interactive too, I wonder if it has to be necessarily in the building. Could this be something they put on the website, like, history.calgaryflames.com or something like that, and maybe there's just one touch screen in the building. But I do think it would be neat to have sort of what you're saying, even if not interactive, maybe just a screen or two playing outside or inside that almost loops all day, just showing clips of, some of the best Flames from those bygone eras.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think he deserves some sort of recognition. He was a great story too for Flames development back at the time. This was an undrafted free agent who played for us in 2004 and then ended up going on to go to Russia for a year, come back as a better player, and work his way up to being the Flames captain. I think that story, not just the player, but even the story, needs to be honored.
Mm-hmm.
And understand where that fits in Flames lore and Flames history and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens there. I'm hoping, if nothing else, I think he's working with the Toronto Maple Leafs in development. I'm hoping, if nothing else, they will honor him next time the Leafs come here if he's in the building. But I'm a little bit sad they didn't do the whole, one day sign as a Flame thing to retire him. He's a good Flame, and he's a guy that I want to make sure that fans here remember and fans here know the story of, because I think he was a key part of the transitional time for this organization. But that kind of wraps up everything I wanted to talk about for this week. Anything you want to get off your chest or chat about?
Not really. Next week I will not be here. And probably the week after.
We're putting you on the IR for a little bit?
Yep. Getting some dental surgery, so that's always fun.
There you go. Well,
so afterwards, I might be speaking with more of a lisp, as I'm getting, better from what I'm having to deal with. So, yeah.
We will have some. The show will still be going on. We just won't have Matt for a couple weeks. So if you tune in next week, you'll hear a different voice in Matt's chair. But before you go, Matt, let's let you predict how the seasons or how the Flames are going to do this week as we move into the second week of the season. So we're 3 games in. The Flames are 3 games this week. Last week, I thought they would lose to Edmonton and Vancouver and win to St. Louis. And you thought they'd lose all 3. Neither of us were right there. They won against Edmonton, lost to Vancouver and St. Louis. This week, another 3 games in the docket. On Tuesday, the Flames are here at the Saddledome, 7 p.m. start time against the Vegas Golden Knights. Then they have to go the next night to Utah, to Salt Lake City, to play against the Mammoth. And then they get a couple days off, and they're on the road on a Saturday game, 8 p.m. start time against the Vegas Golden Knights. So 7, 7:30, and 8 p.m. start time. What are your guesses for this week?
It's not really going to be looking too good. If it wasn't for the back-to-back, I'd say that they'd beat Utah.
I think they have a chance of beating Utah for sure if there's not a back-to-back. And especially back-to-back with travel.
Yeah, but all the factors, plus Vegas basically having the Flames number for their entire existence, I'm going to go 0-3 and once again and be depressing.
Do you think we see Devin Cooley make his season debut this week?
I would assume that he would play the Utah game, or if the Flames get a veteran goalie via trade, one or the other, whomever it'll be
at the time.
Yeah.
See, I don't know, and we can have this discussion if we want to, but I don't know that it's worth giving up an asset to get a different goaltender at this point. I mean,
no,
you
me
find
either.
ones as waivers or free agent or something, maybe, but I would not trade my way into a backup at this point.
Yeah, unless it's I'll consider you in the future or insert, a relevant prospect here, sure, but, that would be about the extent of it.
Yeah, I don't want to really give up an asset to bring in a backup. I think you've got, between Cooley and Prosvetov, they're fine. For what the Flames need this year, they're okay.
Yeah, and realistically, this team is not going to be, gunning for a top 10 spot in the NHL. They're probably going to be bottom 3rd or bottom 5, at least based on their play and not having Huberdeau. So we'll see. But there's no urgency where, our season's going to be over if we don't get a backup. It really doesn't matter.
Nope. This week, the back-to-back, it's weird to have 2 back-to-backs in the first 2 weeks of the season. I guess this is partly what happens too when you have to take a break because they have the Olympic break this year. You're condensing everything. But I can't remember a year where we've had 2 back-to-backs in the first 2 weeks of the season. Can you?
No, and really it's in the first 5 games we have 2 back-to-backs. It just seems a little excessive, but...
It does, yeah. But I mean, there's not a ton of them this year, but there's more than usual. But that's because they're taking most of February off.
Yeah, honestly, in the first 8 days of the season, we'll have played 5 times. That's a lot.
It is, yeah, and I think it's one thing that might bode well for a young roster.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want the Flames to go 0-3 this week, but I think it's the most viable option here because, I shouldn't say viable, the most realistic option here, I guess, because, the Golden Knights are a good team. The Golden Knights often beat the Flames. I'm going to say the Flames find a way to sneak one out against Utah. So I'll say they win Utah and they lose both games against LA or against Las Vegas. That's my thing. Is I don't know how, because on the back-to-back, especially if Cooley's in net, I don't know. I don't want to be as negative as you and say they're going to lose all 3. So I'm going to go with the win to the Mammoth. And even that's going to be a tough game because the Mammoth have a good young roster.
Yep.
But for fans, just note that the Wednesday game is a 7:30 start time, not the usual 7. And then the late game on Saturday for Hockey Night in Canada. We've got some weird start times. We had I'm just looking at the rest of the month here. We had a 2 p.m. start time for the home opener. Next week, we have a 6:30 against Montreal. Then on the 28th, a 4:15 and a 5 o'clock. Like, these are some funky start times this month.
Well, that's odd. But
yeah, I don't remember any time that we've had like a 15 after start time. They do 7:30 sometimes, but can you ever remember like a quarter after start time?
No, I guess they must be having some sort of pregame thing that day.
Maybe,
because that's the only thing I can think of like, oh, well, we're honoring somebody, so that's going to take up an extra 10 minutes. So
yeah, even there though, I think they usually just start those at the half past.
Yeah, very odd.
Yeah, and I only mention it because players get into a routine too, and we've got all these different start times. I think that's going to affect the Flames. Maybe not this week, but by the time we get to the end of the month, I mean, we've got a 7, a 7:30, an 8, a 7:30, a 6:30, a 6, a 6, a 4:15, and a 5 o'clock start time for the rest of this month. Like that's going to have some effect on these players and their routine, and I think that might throw them off as well. So hopefully we're both wrong, but I don't see a great week for the Flames coming up.
No, me either, unfortunately. Hopefully, you guys will be talking, positively about the team, but yeah.
and as far as Devin Cooley goes, I can see this going two ways. I can see the Flames trying to ride Wolf all the way through these 6 games, but you can't burn him out early. I think you've got to put Cooley in somewhere. I could see it either being the away Vegas game and having to see different goalies in both. But I think the most viable option and the one that makes the most sense for the team is put Cooley or Prosvetov or whoever your backup is, on the 18th in the back-to-back and give Wolf 3 days of rest there. I think that's the one. You're not at the point in the season where you want to start giving, Vegas a different look. I think that's too early for that. I think that Cooley, unless you think, hey, we're going to kind of sacrifice that game in a way, I think Cooley makes the most sense to get his debut in the Utah game. And I think they do need to get their backup out there. There's been a lot of talk about this team maybe not being comfortable in their backup or confident in their backup. And I think they need to get him out there and say, yeah, this guy is, an able goaltender and we're willing to play him.
Yeah, and like last year in the Utah-Vegas road trip early in the season, like Wolf played terribly. It was his first bad game in the NHL, was in Utah where he gave up 5 goals. So, having Cooley in there is also not necessarily a bad thing.
No, and we got to see what Cooley is. I mean, there's been a lot of talk there, and there's been a lot of discussion about, is he the guy that we saw before Christmas or after Christmas? I think that there's a lot of unknowns, and at some point we're going to have to find out. And I think it's better in some ways to do it early, even if it means a loss, and know what you've got so you can make the appropriate changes if you need to before it gets down to the wire.
Exactly.
So, Matt, I hope everything goes well with your surgery, and we will talk to you in a couple weeks. Fans will be back next week just without Matt. And enjoy this week of Flames hockey. Let's hope it's better than we both think it's going to be.
Yep. And as always, go Flames go.
Fireside Chat is hosted by Dan Stevenson, co-hosted by Matt DeBorg. This episode produced and edited by Peter Marino. Fireside Chat is licensed under Creative Commons license. For full license details, visit firesidechat.ca.